Hi folks, how are you doing? In the third round of the Tromsø Chess Olympiad, we had a very beautiful game in the first board of the match between Bulgaria and Spain. We had two very strong players playing in the first board of this match. We had Veselin Topalov, the former world champion with white pieces, and Francisco Paco Vallejo with black, the best Spanish player ever probably. So we have a very complex and beautiful game ahead. Don't lose track. Topalov played 1 d4 and Vallejo played f5. The Dutch defense. After c4 we have knight f6, knight c3, some normal games. Vallejo wants to go for classical Dutch. He plays e6. And now Topalov plays not the most common move, but certainly a logical one, a3. Because in lots of Dutch positions, in the classical Dutch, moreover, the bishop b4 move is a very useful move for black. He usually goes there when possible and exchanges this bishop. So now avoiding that and winning some space even on the queen side seems logical, not a bad move. Paco goes here g6, looking a little weird, but certainly solid. Vallejo mixes classical and Leningrad Dutch ideas. Now we have some developing, easy to understand move. Bishop to f4, bishop g7, e3, Vallejo castles, knight to f3, d6 controlling e5 and c5 squares, bishop to e2, and h6 now by black, with a very common idea in the Dutch, kingsand expansion, trying to play g5, maybe h5. The queen may roll over here to try to attack. So Topalov makes a room for his bishop so that after g5 he can put the bishop back on h2. Paco keeps developing, knight bd7, queen to c2, and this is the way Vallejo chose to develop his light square bishops, to put it on b7, fianchetto. Rook to d1, very simple and natural developing moves by Topalov, very smooth. And here Vallejo plays king h8, kind of a prophylactic move, getting out from this light square diagonal, but not sure if it was necessary. There isn't any piece on this diagonal, not a bishop, not a queen. Maybe he wanted to put the rook here, try to attack along the g file, I don't know. But here Topalov goes very natural, b4, grabbing lots of space here, having cool pawns here. And after bishop b7, Topalov thinks it is time to play d5, to advance in the center, as he has lots of development, plenty of space, and it is time to look for something, some tension in the center. Now, certainly castling wouldn't be that bad, but here it allows a very thematic idea in the Dutch, I believe. The e4 square is under a huge pressure by black, and a knight would be easily located here, giving black quite a solid position. This knight would like to go to f6. Black would be in a cool position here, nothing out of this world, but very solid, certainly. But as we saw, Topalov rather went for d5, which was answered by e5. And now look at this. This knight doesn't have that many squares, either than going to d2 or g1. It's starting position, it makes no sense. So constantly relocating pieces. You can see these kind of things in GM's games. The knight goes to d2 to look for better squares for this piece. Francisco Vallejo goes c6 here, trying to break this pawn structure. D takes, but after bishop takes, white has some positional advantage here already on the d file. The rook is here controlling the d file more or less. There is a backward pawn on d6, which could be eventually very weak. Now Topalov castles, rook c8, and well, black also gets an open file for his rook. But now there is a little beautiful combination which not sure, but it's very probable that Topalov had prepared these kind of ideas. as he takes on f5. Remember, this pawn was hanging, but it seems that black has some dangerous looking discovered attacks here with knight e4 attacking the queen with the rook. But guess what? Topalov says, I was looking for that, and he sacrifices his queen. Queen takes a8 check, bishop takes f8, and he takes on d4 with a d knight. So Veselin Topalov, former world champion, sacrifices his queen for a rook, a knight, a pawn, and besides he has the bishop pair and a clear initiative, good control of the d file for instance. And meanwhile black's pieces are a little bit scattered around. The king is not sure, he's not sure what he's going to do in the corner, maybe a little bit weak, so very interesting queen sacrifice by Topalov. Now Paco tries to reorganize his forces, queen c7, and you can see this pawn finally is very weak, and the bishop pair will be counting for something. So this is a long-term queen sacrifice, a very deep idea by Topalov, and he now just simply is going to double up his rook on the open d file. Black goes with the king to g7, rook ft1, and d6 is lost, so Paco just tries to improve his pieces, giving up that pawn. Knight takes d6, bishop takes, rook takes d6. Now e5 is even under attack, so queen e7 is what black does to defend the pawn. Bishop g3, bishop back to e8, and now second sacrifice by Topalov. He was in absolutely attacking manners. Very creative game by the Bulgarian former world champion. He sacrifices the exchange, taking with the rook on f6. Incredible game. Queen takes, and now goes in with the knight, attacking the queen. After queen to g6, the point is that he has a very strong knight here. It goes to d6, attacking both rook and bishop. There is even an idea to go with the bishop to d3, hitting this queen, which doesn't have that many great squares. And absolutely, I mean, a very imbalanced position, materially speaking, but white is in control, seems. It seems so, at least. I mean, now I'm sure I would lose this position with white 1000 times in a row, but certainly looks very tempting position for white. Black goes bishop a4, counter-attacking the rook on d1, but now rook escapes to d5. Paco gives a check with the queen, king h2, and rook goes to f8. Now white has a number of advantages, plans. He can even take on e5, but he's looking for a passed pawn here on the queen side. He plays c5, bishop b3, and now he takes with the rook on e5. Queen to c2, hitting the bishop, but the bishop now is going to f3, looking very powerful, this bishop pair controlling almost all the board. And Paco decides to give an exchange back to get rid of that strong bishop on f3, taking on f3 with the rook. Now b takes, and bishop a4, trying to stop this pawn from advancing further. But now knight f5 check, king to g6, and c6. Well, it may seem that this pawn is available, but if bishop takes, knight d4, forking both queen and bishop, and if the queen goes somewhere, say c3 to keep it protected, rook e6 check, and the bishop is lost. There's double attack with the knight and the rook on the bishop. The other option black may think about was to give lots of material back to try to reach an opposite colored bishop endgame, but this seems really hopeless for black, because white has white is up 3 pawns, even though there is an opposite colored bishop endgame. After c7, bishop d7 is forced, but e4 check, and if king e6, white keeps rolling his pawns, getting more passed pawns, and this should be hopeless for Vallejo here. So after c6, he just wants to create some mess on the king side, tried to get some counter chances against white king side, but white plays really cool and calm. Knight d4, attacking the queen, queen to c4, and now h4. After g takes, bishop takes, Paco tried a5, but really there is little he can do here. Black has no clear plan. Meanwhile, white will combine all his forces with a great coordination. Now he checks on e6, king to f7, check on e7, king to g6, and after c7, Vallejo in fact resigned after 43 moves. A beautiful, really beautiful game. Let us see. Let us try to understand why just 2700 rated player like Paco Vallejo resigned here without trying anything else. Well, obviously white has lots of advantage here because he has a combined power of the knight, very well placed rook, the bishop is very strong, and the c pawn is crucial here. On the other hand, black king is very weak, a source of problems for black. Meanwhile, his white colleague is very, very safe. There is no serious way to try to get a counterplay against white king, so that's a very huge plus for white. And black is in a kind of a zugzwang because this queen must keep protecting this c8 promotion square. And if what else can you move? I mean, if the black bishop, for instance, goes somewhere which is not guarding this diagonal, let's say something like bishop e3, then with an idea of rook e6, then going with the rook after the check, going to c6, protecting c8 promotion square and attacking the queen, seems like a deadly idea. Very simple but really effective. And if just black keeps doing nothing, say he plays something like queen c1, trying to just waste tempos and see what white does, he just can play f4, creating lots of trouble for this pawn. Let's say black just keeps ignoring everything, plays queen c4, well, a5 check, king h6, and white has lots of checkmating ideas. For instance, with f4, this king has no squares to go, bishop g5 is a checkmating threat, and you can see that black there is very little can do. So there it goes, a precious game between Veselin Topalov and Francisco Vallejo pawns in the third round of this Tromsø Chess Olympiad 2014. Thanks for watching.